From people messing with compressed air to idiots trying to impress the opposite sex. Here we list 10 curiously stupid deaths. 10. The name Allan Pinkerton may seem very familiar to some of you, as Allan was in fact the founder of the Pinkerton Detective Agency. Among his exploits, he foiled an assassination attempt on Abraham Lincoln. Shame he wasn't actually around when Lincoln did eventually get assassinated. Pinkerton also spent a lot of his time pursuing the outlaw Jesse James. But why is Pinkerton in this list? Simply because he died by biting his own tongue. In June 1884, Pinkerton was out for a walk and he slipped on the pavement and quite innocently accidentally bit his tongue. His tongue then became infected. As medicine was quite basic back then and antibiotics were yet to be discovered, the infection grew and Pinkerton died on the 1st of July 1884. What a way to go. 9. In Romania, sometime in the 60s, two workers were messing around with a very high pressure hose. They started innocently enough by firing air at objects and using it to make strange noises, when one of the men suddenly dropped his pants and exclaimed that it would be hilarious to blow air up his own ass and then do some massive farts. The resulting intake of air was equal to 6 atmospheres of pressure and promptly ruptured the man's colon and damaged some internal organs. He died in agony a few minutes later. 8. Although there are strict laws governing bungee jumping, it still takes a lot of guts to do, and it should only be done with the correct equipment and under the supervision of professionals. Somebody should have told Eric Barcia about all of this. Eric was a daredevil of sorts. Unfortunately, he didn't have the brains to equal his balls. Eric decided to do a bungee jump and he made his own bungee. But instead of using the correct type of bungee rope, he made his out of bungee cords. These are the stretchy cords that you use to tie things down in the back of your car so they don't slide around. He diligently measured the cords and made sure that they were shorter than the 70-foot drop he was going to jump. Sadly, Eric didn't take into account how far the cords would stretch. He only realised this when his face smashed into the concrete, killing him instantly. 7. When you are young, there is much fun to be had by inhaling the helium from balloons and speaking like a cartoon character. College students Jason Ackerman and Sarah Ridman thought they would take the concept to a whole new level when they saw a giant helium-filled advertising balloon hanging from the outside of their apartment building. They went outside and pulled the balloon down so that they could open it up and walk inside. Unfortunately, they hadn't realised that in large doses, helium is poisonous. A few breaths will give you a major headache, and after a few minutes, you will die. Despite being college students, they forgot that you need oxygen to live. I hope at least that they died with a smile on their faces. 6. In August of 1995, 6 residents of Cairo in Egypt drowned while trying to rescue a chicken that had fallen into a well. An 18-year-old farmer was the first to descend into the 60-foot well. He drowned after an apparent undercurrent pulled him down under the water. After this, his sister and 2 brothers, none of whom could swim, went in one by one to help him, but also drowned. 2 elderly farmers heard the commotion and also came to help, but they apparently were pulled under by the same undercurrent. People later pulled the 6 bodies out of the well. The chicken was also pulled out. It survived. 5. A strange diet and sleeping in a room with no ventilation were blamed for the death of a man who was killed by his own farts. An autopsy showed no marks on his body, but there was a large amount of methane in his system. The main staples of his diet, it seems, were beans and cabbage, both notorious for producing such gas. Unfortunately for the man, it was just the right combination of foods. The only logical conclusion was the fact that during the night the man had farted a lot. In fact, a hell of a lot. And this gas had built up in his bedroom and he had died by suffocation. If he had only left the window open, he would have woken up none the wiser. Apparently 3 of the people who were on the team that removed the body got sick. Imagine the smell. 4. The Nintendo Wii was all the rage when it was first released. So much so that in 2007 there was a worldwide shortage. The aptly named Jennifer Strange, who was 28, entered a competition ran by radio station KDND 107.9, which was entitled Hold Your Wii for a Wii. Contestants in the event were made to drink half-pint bottles of water every 15 minutes. These were soon replaced by larger bottles as the contest continued. The winner would be the last person to relieve themselves. Jennifer came second in the competition and returned home, where she was discovered dead some 6 hours later. The cause of death was hyponatremia, otherwise known as acute water intoxication. This is where the sodium in the blood is diluted too far, in her case caused by the consumption of too much water. Unfortunately for Jennifer, she never got to use the Justin Timberlake concert tickets she won as a runner-up prize. 3. Garry Hoy was a lawyer that worked on the 24th floor of the Toronto Dominion Centre. Hoy used to tell people that the office windows were unbreakable, and one day decided to prove his point. In front of some colleagues, he ran and threw himself at a window, and true to his word, he bounced off. However, Hoy was not happy with this display and decided to make sure that he proved his point. He again ran up to the window and threw himself at it, only for it to give way and send him hurling to his death. In dying, Hoy had somehow proved his point, as the window didn't in fact break at all. The frame had given way and the window had popped out. If this fact gave him any solace as he plunged 24 stories to his death, I guess we'll never know. 2. Throughout history, some men have gone to extraordinary lengths to prove their dominance over another man in order to impress women. Poland's Christophe was one such man. In 1995, the 30-year-old and his friends were playing drinking games designed to prove their manliness, doing strange things such as stripping naked and bashing each other around the head with frozen turnips. One man was so into the whole bravado thing that he accepted a bet to cut off his own foot with a chainsaw. Not one to be outdone, Asninsky reportedly grabbed the chainsaw, yelled, "Watch this," and proceeded to cut off his own head. Quite how this was supposed to attract a woman is anyone's guess. 1. Russian roulette is a silly enough thing to do without changing how it is played. It is traditionally played by placing a single bullet into a revolver and spinning the chamber, placing the gun against your head and pulling the trigger. This means that there is a 1 in 6 chance of blowing your brains out. Apparently, some people don't realise that the gun you use in this game has to be a revolver. A young man in Houston learned this lesson when, whilst visiting friends, he played this game with a semi-automatic pistol. Unlike a revolver, even if a single bullet is placed into a semi-auto, this bullet will be fired the next time the trigger is pulled. Unfortunately, by the time he would have been able to realise his mistake, his brains would have been all over the wall. That brings this instalment of Curious Tens to a close. Make sure to subscribe for more videos, and please feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments.